Hi, scholars. Today I'm going to give you some feedback on your point of view practice worksheet that you guys completed or should have completed by last Friday, May 15th. First of all, I want you to go to your Google Classroom, a point of view practice document, open it up so that you can look at this video and you can look at your own document so you can see where you can make improvements or if you're right on target. Also, just FYI, note that I always post the agenda slides for the lessons. So the point of view lesson is already posted in your Google Classroom. If you ever have any confusion or questions, you can always go to those slides and review them as many times as possible. So let's begin. First of all, you need to read the directions. Determine from which perspective the passage is narrated. If it is in third person, circle each time the character's thoughts or feelings are narrated. Explain your answers in the box. So you have to do two things. You have to answer and write which perspective the little passage is being told from, and then you need to explain your answers. If it is third person, circle each time a character's thoughts or feelings are narrated. That is bolded in the directions because there are three different types of third person. There's objective, there's limited, and omniscient. So if you underline the character's thoughts or feelings, you'll be able to determine which third person point of view this passage is being told from. Then you have a box below the directions with the different viewpoints. There are 5. First person, second person, third person objective, third person limited, and third person omniscient. Now, if you noticed, I only gave you 5 passages, which mean there is one passage per viewpoint. And Mr. Rodriguez and I did that on purpose so that you wouldn't have, any questions on, is this, is this the second, third person limited? So we just made it a little easier on you. So let's begin with number 1. I'll read the passage to you. Walter crumpled the business section of the newspaper. He couldn't believe the headline. Xanogram sold for $4 billion, smackaroos. He could recall starting the company with his partner Zap just a few weeks earlier. Now, Walter had nothing and was riding the bus while Zap took champagne bubble baths. The bus driver noticed that Walter looked distressed. He was genuinely concerned about Walter, but he had learned a long time ago not to pry into the fair's affairs. Okay, now, let's look at this. The narrator's perspective and the explanation. Okay, now look at the passage and how the student underlined. The student knows that it's in third person because it has he and he 3 times, 4 times throughout, and that is one of the pronouns for third person. So the underlining of the thoughts and feelings of the character, Walter looked distressed, genuinely concerned, and so the passage is narrated in third person omniscient. Look at the explanation. I know this because the narrator is not a character in the story and focuses on the thoughts and feelings of more than one character, Walter and the bus driver in the passage. A thorough explanation, complete sentences, ending punctuation, capital letter that begins the sentence. This shows me that the student truly understands third person omniscient. Moving on to the second one. Crash. The sound of falling bowling pins fills the air. You walk to the counter and address the attendant. You mention that he has given you shoes in the wrong size. He politely corrects the error. You walk back to your party. It is your turn to put on your shoes, find your ball, and approach the lane. You wait until the lanes are clear. Then you waddle up to the lane and roll the ball between your legs, grandma style. Your friends cheer. The bumpers ensure that the roll is devastating. Again, the passage is narrated in the second person perspective. This is her explanation. Ooh, I give you a hint. It's a female. I know this because the narrator is not a character in the story and uses the word you to refer to a character in the passage. Now, you are not required to annotate any other point of view in the passage except for third person. This student wanted to make sure that she knew and demonstrated that this was truly second person point of view. Explanation again begins with a capital letter. It is a complete sentence, ends with ending punctuation. Even in the answer and then the explanation clearly demonstrates that this student understands the viewpoint, second person point of view. Excellent. As we move on, the student chose to underline the I pronouns in this passage, and she states the passage is narrated in the first person perspective. Again, period, endpoint, complete sentence, capital letter, it begins, and her explanation is very clear. I know this because this narrator uses the words I and me to refer to herself/himself, a character in the passage. Clear knowledge of first person point of view. And the next, number 4, the next passage, the student states that, and again, the student is annotating for which point of view it is. The passage is narrated in the third person limited perspective. And if you don't know what limited is, it refers to one character's perspective. Whereas in the beginning, the first one I forgot to mention, omniscient is all knowing, that you know the thoughts and feelings of all characters. So let's go back to number 4. The passage, after she's underlined, she realizes that it's third person limited. And she knows this because the narrator is not a character in the story, uses the word he to refer to the character in the story, and focuses only on one character's thoughts and feelings. And she puts in parentheses Diego. This is clearly an outstanding explanation. It's very thorough. It demonstrates to me as a teacher that this student is on point. She's got this. She knows what type of perspective it is, and she's able to support her answer with textual evidence and knowledge of the different perspectives. And the last, number 5, the passage, again, this student annotates the text and determines that the passage is narrated in the third person objective perspective, which means we as readers do not know the thoughts and feelings of any of the characters, just the action. And this is how she explains it. Again, let me go over the capital letter, ending punctuation, complete sentence, and again, capital letter. Many of you are still using the lowercase I. It never is lowercase. It is always, always, always capitalized. I know this because the narrator is not a character in the story and doesn't give any of the character's thoughts or feelings. Essentially, the passage contains a very surface level description of the character's actions. That's all we get when the author determines which point of view he wants to tell the story from. If he only wants to tell surface level description of the character's actions, that's the author's choice. So as you were able to see from this assignment, I, as a teacher, know this student knows the different points of view. She's able to not only identify pronouns in a text to help her, but she knows the meaning of each of the points of view. Because once she determines after annotating that it's that point of view, she's able to explain how she knows. And that's where the higher level thinking goes. Now, I don't expect you to write like this student because this is the student's, exceptional work, but I do expect you to be able to explain to me how you know it's third person omniscient for number 1. I don't want to read it's third person omniscient because it tells in the story. That doesn't tell me anything. Of course it tells in the story, but how do you know it's third person omniscient and not limited? and not objective? Tell me. How do you know it's second person point of view? How do you know it's first person point of view? Explain it to me clearly. Just pretend like you're talking to somebody. Explain it to me. I need to know that you understand this well. And if not, then we need to continue to review point of view throughout the last 4 weeks of school because I want to make sure ultimately you guys learn it. Me correcting and reviewing and grading your work is not about, I gotcha, you did it wrong, yay. No, it tells me that, okay, 15, half of the class, 15 out of 35 don't get this point of view. They don't know which perspective it is, or they can't explain it. I need to make sure in the next few weeks, maybe the next week that follows, I need to review point of view. So that's my goal with this feedback. I hope that this helps you guys to work on your explanations, go back to the agendas, and show me how smart you are because I know you guys are all capable of doing a good job. Okay, have a good day.